Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked around at the people in your life and wondered, if I stopped trying, if I stopped giving, would they even notice? Would they miss me if I were gone? It's a haunting question, isn't it? And maybe you felt the sting of the answer, that subtle, painful realization that no matter how much you show up, how much of yourself you give, they still seem to take you for granted. Like your presence is expected, not cherished. Like your background noise in the story of their lives. But here's the truth no one talks about. It's not because you don't matter. It's because people don't value what's always there. Human beings have a strange habit. We overlook the things we assume are permanent. The same way we forget to admire the sunrise we think we'll see every day, or the air we breathe without question. And sadly, the same happens with you. But here's the empowering part. What if I told you there's a way to shift this dynamic? A way to make them not only notice you, but truly value you. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but because they finally realize your worth? And no, it doesn't require begging, manipulating, or even changing who you are. The answer lies in understanding two profound truths: the ancient wisdom of Stoicism and the sharp psychological insights of what some call dark psychology. Together, these ideas reveal a powerful principle. When you learn to master both your presence and your absence, you transform the way others perceive you. You create space for them to feel what life is like without you, and that's when they start to see your true value. This isn't about playing games or being someone you're not. This is about reclaiming control over how you show up in the world. It's about learning when to step forward and when to step back, when to give and when to let others feel the weight of your absence. Imagine being in a place where your energy isn't taken for granted, where people actively value your presence, crave your attention, and respect the boundaries you set. That's what I'm going to show you today. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to make them miss you. Not because you've disappeared, but because they finally recognize what they had all along. This is about power, not over others, but over yourself. If you're ready to stop chasing their attention and start commanding it, then stay with me. Let's begin. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. People rarely value what's always there. It's not because they're cruel or because you don't matter. It's simply human nature. We become blind to the things we think we'll never lose. We assume the constants in our lives will always remain. Think about it. When was the last time you truly appreciated the sun rising in the morning or the air filling your lungs? These things are essential to life, yet we overlook them until they're gone. A single cloudy day reminds us how much we love the sun. A gasp for breath makes us grateful for the air we once took for granted. The same principle applies to you. When you're always available, always giving, always there, your presence blends into the background of someone else's life. It's not that they don't care, but they grow accustomed to your consistency. They stop noticing because they've never had to imagine life without you. And this isn't just limited to relationships. It's true for friendships, family, and even at work. The things we take for granted are the things we overlook. But here's where your power lies. The moment you step back, something shifts. When you remove yourself from the constant flow of giving and availability, you create a space that others can't ignore. That space, that absence, speaks louder than words. It forces them to confront what life feels like without you. And in that moment, they start to see your true value, what you bring to the table, what they've been overlooking all along. This isn't about disappearing entirely or playing games. It's about creating intentional absence. It's about choosing when to engage and when to step back. And here's where the wisdom of Stoicism comes in. The Stoics taught us the power of detachment, not to be cold or distant, but to let go of the need for external validation. When you no longer depend on someone else to define your worth, you become unshakable. You radiate calm confidence, and that self-sufficiency draws people to you in ways you've never experienced before. Absence is not just about withholding, it's about balance. It's about valuing your time, your energy, and your presence enough to share it intentionally, not constantly. When you stop overgiving, you stop being overlooked. You stop fading into the background of someone else's life and become someone they actively notice and miss. This quiet power of absence doesn't beg for attention. It commands it. It allows you to reclaim your energy and shift the dynamics in your relationships. And the best part, it requires nothing from them, only a decision from you. A decision to step back, to create space, and to let them feel the weight of your absence. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing their attention and start commanding it? Are you ready to create the kind of presence that leaves an undeniable mark when you're gone? If so, this is your moment to step into your power. Let's talk about something that most people never dare to do, the art of stepping back, not in anger, not in defeat, but with strategy and purpose. This is what I call strategic withdrawal, and it's one of the most powerful tools you can use to change how people see you. Here's the thing, when you're always available, always picking up the phone, always saying yes, you train others to see your presence as a given. They start to believe that you'll always be there, no matter what. And as a result, your time, energy, and effort lose their value. But when you withdraw, when you step back with intention, you create an immediate shift. It's like taking a favorite song off repeat. Suddenly, they notice the silence, and that silence makes them crave what was once constant. But here's the key. Strategic withdrawal isn't about ghosting people or disappearing entirely. It's not about being manipulative or playing hard to get. It's about recognizing your worth and using your absence as a tool to remind others of it. You're not walking away to punish them. You're stepping back to create space for your value to be seen. Think about it like this. When you're constantly giving, people don't have the opportunity to reflect on what you bring to their lives. Your constant presence becomes part of their routine, something they don't even think about. But when you step back, you disrupt that routine. You force them to notice what's missing, and that's when they start to realize how much you actually mean to them. This idea is rooted in the principle of scarcity, a concept often discussed in dark psychology. People place a higher value on things that are rare or difficult to obtain. When you're always available, you unintentionally make yourself common in their eyes. But when you pull back, you create that sense of rarity. You make them appreciate what they previously took for granted. And here's the beautiful part. Strategic withdrawal is as much about you as it is about them. By stepping back, you're reclaiming your energy, your time, and your focus. You're giving yourself the space to realign with your own priorities, to invest in yourself, and to detach from the need for external validation. It's about shifting the dynamic from chasing to being chased. The Stoics understood this well. They believed in living with intention, choosing your actions carefully and not scattering your energy on things or people that don't align with your values. When you practice strategic withdrawal, you embody this principle. You move through the world deliberately, showing up where you're valued and stepping back when you're not. So the next time you feel taken for granted, don't lash out. Don't beg for attention. Instead, step back. Withdraw with purpose. And watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how your absence starts to speak louder than your presence ever could. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. In a world that thrives on noise, where everyone is desperate to be heard, silence becomes a weapon of clarity and control. Think about this. When you're constantly explaining yourself, justifying your actions, or trying to make your point heard, what happens? You dilute your power. Your words lose their weight because there are too many of them. But when you step into silence, when you choose to withhold rather than spill everything, you shift the dynamic entirely. Suddenly, people lean in. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning. Your silence creates intrigue, and that intrigue pulls them closer. Here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics believed in controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't. And one thing you always have control over is your response. When you practice silence, you demonstrate mastery over your emotions. You're no longer reacting impulsively or speaking just to fill the void. Instead, you're choosing your words and your silence with intention. This idea also aligns with a principle in dark psychology. Uncertainty creates desire. When you say less, you leave gaps that others will instinctively try to fill. They'll project their own thoughts and interpretations onto your silence. They'll overanalyze and overthink, and in doing so, they give you the upper hand. For example, imagine a disagreement. Most people would rush to defend themselves, to explain their point of view. But when you respond with silence, a calm, collected silence, you send a different message. You're not avoiding the conflict, you're rising above it. Your silence communicates confidence and self-control. It forces the other person to sit with their own thoughts instead of reacting to yours. And often, in that silence, they begin to see your value in a way they couldn't before. This doesn't mean you should stop communicating altogether, but it does mean choosing your moments. When you speak, your words should carry weight. When you're silent, your presence should still be felt. It's about finding the balance between expression and restraint, between what needs to be said and what is more powerful left unsaid. And here's the secret. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more others will start to respect you. Silence shows strength. It shows you're not desperate to prove yourself or win their approval. And that calm detachment is magnetic. It draws people in and makes them see you in a new light, not as someone who's easily swayed, but as someone who is grounded and unshakable. So the next time you're tempted to fill the silence, pause. Let them feel the weight of your restraint, because sometimes the loudest statement you can make is saying nothing at all. There's a secret most people will never understand. The moment you let go of needing others' approval, you become unstoppable. This is detachment, and it's your greatest superpower. Let's be honest. How much of your energy is spent worrying about what others think? Wondering if they like you, if they appreciate you, if they'll miss you when you're not around? It's exhausting, isn't it? And yet, the harder you try to win their attention, the less they seem to give it. Here's why. When you need their approval, you give away your power. You put your worth in their hands. And in doing so, you lose the ability to command respect. The Stoics had a word for this kind of freedom: apatheia. It doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means freedom from unnecessary passions. It's about letting go of the things you can't control, especially the opinions of others. When you stop seeking validation, you free yourself from the chains of their perception. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing their approval, they start to give it willingly. In dark psychology, this is known as the power of self-sufficiency. When you radiate self-reliance, you create an aura of confidence that draws people to you. They sense that you don't need them, and that makes them want you even more. Detachment creates intrigue. It creates respect. And most importantly, it creates balance in your relationships. Think about the people you admire the most. Chances are they aren't the ones constantly chasing approval. They're the ones who seem calm, centered, and unfazed by what others think. That's because they've mastered detachment. They understand that their worth isn't up for debate, and neither is yours. Detachment isn't about withdrawing completely. It's about shifting your focus inward. It's about asking yourself, what do I value? What aligns with my principles? When you start living for yourself instead of for others, something amazing happens. You stop feeling invisible. You stop trying so hard. And in that space of calm confidence, people start to see you differently. They start to respect you. The next time you catch yourself worrying about someone else's opinion, pause. Remind yourself, their opinion isn't your business. Your value isn't tied to their validation. And when you master this mindset, you'll see how powerful you truly are. Because detachment isn't just a mindset, it's a statement. A statement that says, I'm enough, exactly as I am. And when you carry that energy into the world, trust me, others will feel it. They'll start to notice you in ways they never did before. Because nothing is more magnetic than someone who is truly free. Let's talk about mystery. There's a reason people are drawn to the unknown. It's human nature. We can't resist trying to solve a puzzle. And when it comes to relationships, mystery can be one of the most powerful tools you have to create desire and captivate attention. Here's what most people get wrong. They think being open and transparent about everything will make others like them more. And while honesty is important, being completely predictable can make you forgettable. When people think they have you all figured out, they stop wondering about you. They stop feeling curious. And where there's no curiosity, there's no spark. Mystery, on the other hand, keeps people on their toes. It creates an air of intrigue that makes others want to know more. But let me be clear, this isn't about being manipulative or hiding who you are. It's about being intentional. It's about showing just enough to spark interest while keeping certain parts of yourself private. It's about knowing when to hold back, when to let them come to you, and when to leave them wanting more. Think of it like a great book. The best stories don't lay everything out in the first chapter. They leave clues, they build tension, they keep you guessing, and that's exactly how you need to approach your interactions. When you share just enough, but not everything, you leave room for others to lean in and fill in the gaps. They start to wonder, what's going on in their mind? What do they think about me? That curiosity creates an emotional pull they can't ignore. This is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics believed in controlling what you reveal. They understood that power often lies in restraint. You don't need to broadcast every thought, every feeling, or every detail about your life. By holding some things close to your chest, you maintain an air of confidence and self-control, and that, in itself, is magnetic. In dark psychology, this is called the principle of selective disclosure. Share enough to connect, but not enough to be predictable. When you're too available, too open, or too consistent, you make it easy for people to take you for granted. But when you introduce a little mystery, you become someone they can't stop thinking about. Someone they want to understand, but can't fully grasp. So how do you apply this? It starts with knowing your boundaries. Decide what you're willing to share and what's better left unsaid. Practice pausing before you speak. Let others wonder what's on your mind. And most importantly, remember that it's okay to be an enigma. You don't owe anyone full access to your thoughts and feelings. Because when you master the art of mystery, you become unforgettable. You become the kind of person people can't stop thinking about long after you've left the room. And that's where true desire begins. Here's a truth that might feel uncomfortable at first. The more you give, the less people value it. Not because generosity is wrong, but because overgiving makes you predictable, and what's predictable becomes forgettable. Think about this. Have you ever had someone in your life who gives endlessly? Someone who's always available, always saying yes, always going the extra mile? At first, it feels amazing to have that kind of support, but over time, it becomes an expectation. You stop appreciating it because it's always there, and when they finally say no, it feels like a betrayal, even though they were never obligated to give in the first place. The same principle applies to you. When you give too much, your time, your energy, your attention, you unintentionally lower your own value. You make yourself so available that others stop seeing your presence as a privilege. But when you step back and give less, something fascinating happens. Suddenly, the things you do give carry more weight. Your time becomes more precious. Your attention becomes something people notice and crave. This isn't about withholding out of spite or playing games. It's about creating balance. It's about understanding that giving everything you have doesn't make people love you more. It often makes them value you less. The Stoics understood this balance deeply. They taught the importance of measured action, of giving only what is wise and necessary. They believed that self-respect comes from honoring your own boundaries, not bending to meet every demand. In dark psychology, this is often referred to as the law of value. The more you protect and prioritize your own resources, the more others see them as valuable. Think about it like water in the desert. When it's scarce, people will do anything to get it. But when it's overflowing and abundant, it's taken for granted. Your time, your attention, and your energy are no different. They become more valuable the moment you make them scarce. So, how do you start? First, stop saying yes to everything. Respect your own boundaries and let others respect them too. Second, be intentional about where you place your energy. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this person truly appreciate what I'm offering? And finally, give less, but make what you give count. When you show up, do it fully, with presence and intention. Let people feel the weight of your contribution. When you follow this law of value, you'll notice a shift. The people who took you for granted will start to notice what they're missing. They'll begin to crave the things you once gave so freely, and those who truly value you will rise to meet your energy, because when you protect your worth, you teach others to do the same. So remember this: your value isn't measured by how much you give. It's measured by how intentionally you give it. Here's a question for you. When was the last time you truly felt in control of your own life? Not just your schedule or your goals, but your emotions, your reactions, your mind. If you can't remember, don't worry. You're not alone. Most people move through life reacting to the world around them, never realizing that real power begins with mastering themselves. The Stoics believed in this deeply. They taught that while we can't control external events, we can always control how we respond to them. And when you master your responses, your emotions, your impulses, you unlock a kind of power that no one can take from you. It's the kind of power that changes the way people see you, the way they interact with you. Why? Because most people are ruled by their emotions, but you won't be. Think about how rare that is. In a heated argument, most people lash out. In moments of stress, most people crumble. But imagine being the one who remains calm, centered, and unshakable. Your ability to stay composed sends a message. I'm not ruled by chaos. I control myself. And that calm confidence is magnetic. This is more than just a philosophy. It's a practice. Self-mastery doesn't happen overnight. It takes effort, consistency, and reflection. The Stoics used tools like journaling to observe their thoughts and emotions. They asked themselves daily, "What did I do well today? What could I have done better?" These reflections weren't about guilt. They were about growth. They were a way to gain clarity and reclaim control over their inner world. In dark psychology, this concept is linked to influence. The more in control you are of yourself, the more others instinctively see you as a leader. People are drawn to those who remain calm in the storm. Your unshakable presence becomes a source of stability, something they want to be around, something they respect. But here's the thing. Self-mastery isn't about perfection. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about awareness. It's about noticing when anger starts to rise or when fear begins to creep in, and choosing how to respond instead of letting those feelings control you. The more you practice this, the more power you reclaim. You stop reacting to every little thing that happens. You stop being pulled in 100 different directions by other people's demands. Instead, you move through life with intention and purpose, grounded in who you are and what you stand for. And as you do this, something incredible happens. The people who once overlooked you start to see you in a new light. Your calm presence commands respect. Your ability to stay composed makes them take notice. And the best part? You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself, because true power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. So ask yourself, are you ready to reclaim that power? To stop reacting and start leading? To become the kind of person who inspires respect simply by being? If you are, the journey starts here with one simple decision: to master yourself. Here's something most people don't realize. Relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on dynamics. The way you act, the way you respond, the way you show up, all of it sets the tone for how others treat you. And if you're always the one giving, chasing, or bending to fit their needs, you're allowing them to control the dynamic. But what happens when you take back that control? When you shift the energy in a way that makes them see you differently? That's when they start to miss you. Not because you've disappeared, but because you've changed the way they experience you. You've disrupted the pattern, and now they can't help but notice. Here's the truth. Most people get stuck in one-sided dynamics because they're afraid to disrupt them. They think if they stop giving, stop chasing, or stop being overly available, they'll lose the connection entirely. But the reality is just the opposite. When you take a step back, when you focus on your own energy and stop trying to please, you create a void. And that void makes people realize what they've been taking for granted. This isn't about punishment or manipulation. It's about balance. The Stoics believed in maintaining harmony within yourself before trying to change anything outside of you. They taught that you can't control how others act, but you can control how you show up. And when you change the way you show up, you change the dynamic itself. In dark psychology, this is called reframing the interaction. It's the idea that when you shift your behavior, others have no choice but to respond differently. For example, if you're always the one reaching out first, try stepping back and letting them come to you. If you're always saying yes, start saying no when it's necessary. When you disrupt the pattern, you force them to reassess how they see you. And that's when they start to miss what they've taken for granted. Here's where it gets powerful. When you control the dynamic, you don't have to say anything to make them feel your absence. Your actions, or lack of actions, speak for themselves. By stepping back, by holding your ground, by valuing your own time and energy, you create a ripple effect. They start to notice the little things: your silence, your distance, your calm confidence. And those small shifts add up. They start to realize the weight of your presence. And suddenly, They're the ones trying to earn it. This isn't about playing games. It's about showing people, through your actions, that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. That you're not someone to be taken lightly. And when you do this, when you take back control of the dynamic, something amazing happens. They start to appreciate you in ways they never did before. So if you've ever felt like you're stuck in a one-sided relationship, or like you're being overlooked, remember this. You have the power to change it, not by arguing or demanding, but by shifting the energy you bring to the table. When you control the dynamic, you don't just make them notice you, you make them value you. Let me paint a picture for you. You've been showing up consistently, giving your energy, your time, your attention, always there when they need you. But instead of being appreciated, you've become expected, a fixture in their lives. And then one day you decide to step back. You stop overextending yourself. You reclaim your time. You allow space to exist between you and them. And that's when everything changes. At first, they might not notice. They'll go about their routine, assuming you'll still be there, as you always have been. But then something shifts. A day goes by, maybe two, and they start to feel it. That absence, that silence, that space you've left behind. It gnaws at them, creating a sense of curiosity, even discomfort. They start to wonder, what's different? Why do I feel this way? What have I been missing? And in that moment, they begin to see your worth. This isn't magic. It's a psychological principle that's been studied for decades. People value things that aren't always accessible. Scarcity creates desire. When you step back, you disrupt their expectation of you always being there. You force them to confront the reality of life without you, even if it's just for a short time. And that's when they start to realize just how much you've given, just how important you are. But here's the key. Stepping back isn't about disappearing or withdrawing out of anger. It's about stepping into your own power. It's about reclaiming the energy you've been pouring into others and redirecting it toward yourself. The Stoics called this living in alignment with nature, focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how much of yourself you give. Dark psychology refers to this as the power of detachment. When you detach from the need to always be available, you create a dynamic where others begin to see you as rare, as someone they can't afford to lose. Your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting back everything they took for granted. And here's the beautiful part. This shift isn't just about them. It's about you. The moment you step back, you'll notice something incredible. You'll start to feel lighter, stronger, more centered. You'll see the relationships that truly value you, the ones that rise to meet your energy when you stop giving so freely. And you'll let go of the ones that only existed because you were the one holding them together. So ask yourself, where in your life are you overextending? Where are you giving too much and receiving too little? And what would happen if you stepped back, just for a moment? Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to create space. Space for others to see you. Space for you to see yourself. Because here's the truth. They'll miss you the moment you step back. But more importantly, you'll start to rediscover the strength that's been within you all along. You've heard it throughout this journey. Your power doesn't come from constantly giving or chasing validation. It comes from knowing when to step forward and when to step back. It comes from recognizing that your value isn't defined by how much you give, but by how intentionally you give it. And when you understand this, something shifts, not just in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. Here's the truth. Stepping back isn't about creating distance for the sake of distance. It's about reclaiming your energy, your boundaries, your self-respect. It's about creating space, Not just for others to notice you, but for you to notice yourself. Because too often we get so caught up in giving to others that we forget to give to the one person who matters most, ourselves. The Stoics taught us to live in alignment with our own values, to let go of the things we can't control, and to focus instead on mastering ourselves. And when you apply this to your life, you discover a profound truth. Your absence, when intentional, becomes more powerful than your presence. It forces others to see what they've been taking for granted. It shifts the dynamics in your relationships. And most importantly, it gives you the freedom to stop chasing and start living. This is not manipulation, it's transformation. You're not stepping back to hurt anyone or to prove a point. You're stepping back to realign with your own worth, to remind others and yourself that your time and energy are precious. Here's what will happen. Some people will step up. They'll notice the space you've created, and they'll fill it with respect, appreciation, and effort. Others won't, and that's okay too. Because the relationships that truly matter will thrive when you reclaim your power, and the ones that fall away were never meant to stay. So take this as your moment. Step back when you need to. Let them feel the weight of your absence. Let them reflect on the privilege of your presence. And as they do, you'll discover something even more valuable. The calm, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing your worth, independent of anyone else's opinion. This is your power. This is your gift. And now it's yours to claim. If this resonated with you, let me know by commenting below. My power lies in my presence and absence. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Stoic Blessing for more insights like this. Turn on notifications so you never miss a chance to reclaim your power. Remember, your value is undeniable. Now go live like it.